Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. Now, quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has arrived in Abu Dhabi, the capital of United Arab Emirates, positioning Nigeria as a center of high-level global conversations on sustainability, climate action, and economic transformation. Over now to Uyi Agbomofuegbe for the report.
The president touched down at the presidential wing of the Zayed International Airport at exactly 11:30 p.m. local time on Sunday, ahead of the opening of the 2026 Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, one of the world's leading platforms on sustainable development, which begins on Monday. President Tinubu was formally received on arrival by senior UAE and Nigerian officials, including the UAE Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Sheikh Shagbut Nayan Al Nahyan, the UAE Ambassador to Nigeria, Salem Said Al Shamshi, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tugar, and members of the Nigerian diplomatic mission in Abu Dhabi. The Abu Dhabi visit comes shortly after President Tinubu's engagements in Europe, where he held strategic discussions with Rwanda President Paul Kagame and French President Emmanuel Macron, focusing on cooperation, development, and global partnerships. The 2026 Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, themed The Nexus of Next, All Systems Go, convenes world leaders, policymakers, investors, and experts to shape practical solutions on climate change, energy transition, sustainable development, and inclusive economic growth. President Tinubu's participation underscores Nigeria's growing role in global sustainability dialogue and further strengthens the country's diplomatic and economic relations with the United Arab Emirates as Nigeria seeks partnerships that support its developmental priorities and long-term growth agenda. Uyi Agbomofuegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
The federal government has appropriated a sum of 1.07 billion naira for the repairs of the residential buildings of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima in the 2026 budget, pushing the amounts allocated for the renovation of the duo's official residence and quarters in 3 years to 18.4 billion naira. This is as Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC, whose expenditure is captured under the presidency's section of the budget, proposed to spend 3.2 billion naira on cleaning and fumigation services, as well as meals and refreshments this year. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has presented the 2026 appropriation title Budget of Consolidation, Renewed Resilience and Shared Prosperity to a joint session of the National Assembly on December 19th. He had earlier written to the Senate and the House of Representatives requesting a repeal and reenactment of the 2024 and 2025 Appropriation Acts with total expenditure of 43.56 trillion naira and 48.32 trillion naira respectively, to ensure full implementation by March 31st, 2026. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has suspended his planned nationwide strike following the intervention of the Vice President Kashim Shettima. Now, the association president, Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, said in a statement that the decision to suspend the strike was reached after a meeting of the association's National Executive Council. He said the vice president requested more time to address the issues raised by the doctors, and the National Executive Council agreed to grant the request. The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, will on Wednesday, January 14th, formalize a new agreement to improve Nigeria's universities and ensure stability. The announcement was made in a statement released in Abuja by Folashade Borowo, Director, Press and Public Relations at the Federal Ministry of Education. The formalization of the agreement follows years of engagement between the federal government and ASU to address industrial disputes and improve the quality of education in Nigerian universities. Moving on now to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC has opened its online media accreditation portal for the upcoming Rivers State by-elections in Ahoda East 2 and Kana 2 constituencies. Now, the election is scheduled for February 21st, 2026. INEC announced via its official X handle that interested media organizations are required to apply through the portal online. The Commission stated that the accreditation portal will close on February 8th, 2026, stressing that late applications will not be considered. The federal government has proposed over 41 billion naira in the 2026 budget for the renovation, furnishing and equipping of 109 Nigerian foreign missions. The proposed allocation covers the rehabilitation of chanceries, ambassadors' residence and staff quarters, as well as procurement of office furniture and official vehicles across Nigeria's diplomatic missions. The proposed allocation represents a reduction from 53 billion naira approved for similar purposes in the 2025 budget. The Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development has proposed to spend 91.7 billion naira on capital projects out of its total budgetary allocation of 97.077 billion naira for the 2026 fiscal year. Details of the ministry's budget estimate assessed on the Budget Office website in Abuja show that the Renewed Hope Housing Scheme was allocated 8.05 billion naira, while 3.7 billion naira was earmarked for the execution of the ongoing national housing program across the country. Now, other projects to be funded under the ministry's capital allocation include the construction of prototype housing units in Suleja, Niger State, and Ikorodu, Lagos State, for which 2.1 billion naira was provided. The federal government says it has inaugurated a 40 billion naira closed-circuit television camera CCTV center of the 3rd Mainland Bridge in Lagos State. Inaugurating the center, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, stated this and directed total re-evaluation and rehabilitation of the surfaces of the bridge and changing the expansion joints. As Nigeria honors the courage and sacrifices of its armed forces, the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has called on all citizens to embrace peace, unity, and love for the country. Senator Akpabio, who was represented by Deputy Chief Whip Owomboyin Onyeka, delivered this message during the 2026 Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day Interdenominational Church Service at the National Christian Center in Abuja. Kikelomo Okere was there for Global Television.
The interdenominational service brought together top government officials, military personnel, religious leaders, and families, serving as a moment of reflection on the cost of freedom and the importance of national solidarity. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who was represented by the Deputy Chief Whip, Owomboyin Onyeka, praised the armed forces for their sacrifice in maintaining peace and safeguarding the nation. He emphasized that the bravery of these men and women should inspire every Nigerian to work towards harmony and national cohesion.
Dear beloved, I want to assure you that effort is in top gear to restore Nigeria as the most peaceful country and the most secure country in Africa.
The Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to improve the welfare of the Nigerian military and their families, highlighting the critical role they play in securing the nation, while acknowledging the courage of those who have laid their lives in service and urged citizens to collaborate with the government in tackling national security challenges, including terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry.
Our efforts will not be possible. Today is a moment of worship, a moment of reflection, and a moment of remembrance.
Most Reverend Uche Okafor of Presbyterian Church, while delivering the sermon, drew lesson from 2 Chronicle, highlighting gratitude, encouragement, and spiritual security. Reverend Okafor urged soldiers not to be discouraged, describing their service as not only a duty to Nigeria, but also commitment to God and humanity. He reminded military personnel to remain patriotic and neutral as the country approaches the 2027 electoral cycle. The service serves as a solemn reminder of the bravery and dedication of Nigerian soldiers, and the government says it will continue to support them and their families as they safeguard the nation. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Our fallen heroes will always be remembered. Meanwhile, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia has called for greater national appreciation of Nigeria's armed forces as the country marks the Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day. The governor made the call during an interdenominational church service held in Makudi to mark the 56th Armed Forces Celebration and the report.
Worshippers, security personnel, government officials and religious leaders gathered at the Deeper Life Bible Church headquarters in Makudi to honor men and women of the armed forces who have served and those who paid the ultimate price in defense of Nigeria. Speaking at the service, Governor Hyacinth Alia disclosed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has renamed the annual Armed Forces Remembrance Day to Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day. Governor Alia said the new name reflects the need to honor serving officers and fallen heroes while emphasizing that peace and security are vital to national development and require the support of all Nigerians.
For Benue State, the significance of Armed Forces Remembrance Day is deeply personal. Our state has witnessed painful security challenges over the years, and we know firsthand the value of peace and the heavy costs of insecurity. We therefore salute not only the fallen heroes, but also the serving personnel of the Nigerian Army, Navy, the Air Force, the police, civil defense, other security agencies who continue to stand between our people, our state, our nation, and danger. As we remember our heroes today, we must also renew our collective resolve as citizens. Security is not the responsibility of government alone.
In a sermon titled Understanding Spiritual Loyalty, Bishop Mike Angor encouraged Nigerians to remain committed to God and to live in unity and love. Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Benue State, Bishop Wilfred Chiukpa Anagbe praised the courage of the armed forces and acknowledged the efforts of the state government in improving development and security. The service featured special prayers for fallen heroes, their families, serving and retired military personnel, as well as peace and stability in Nigeria. In Makudi, Felicity Ndere, reporting for Global Television News.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has cautioned institutions of higher learning against the conduct of admitting lower-ranked candidates and bypassing higher-ranked ones. The exam body directed the immediate reversal of such irregular admissions, warning all institutions to strictly adhere to the established guidelines governing the selection and admission of candidates. A statement by JAMB's public communication advisor, Fabian Benjamin, noted that university admissions operate on a three-tier policy of merit, catchment area, and educationally less developed states. The statement said each tier is guided strictly by merit, such that candidates with higher rankings must be selected first, followed by others in descending order. You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News returns, Iran warns Washington of retaliation if U.S. launches attack. Details coming shortly, plus business and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the federal government plans to spend 92.9 billion naira on electricity and diesel across ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs. In the 2026 fiscal year, reflecting the continued strain of Nigerians' unreliable power supply on public finances. This is according to data contained in the 2026 appropriation bill seen by Nairametrics, which outlines proposed energy-related recurrent expenditure across federal institutions. The allocations show that despite ongoing power sector reforms, MDAs are still budgeting heavily for grid electricity and diesel power alternatives to sustain operations. The price war in the petroleum sector has continued to deepen as some retail outlets have dropped the prices of premium motor spirit petrol below 939 naira per litre, recommended by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. The Dangote Refinery / petrol pump prices from about 900 naira to 739 naira in December. Many importers and depot owners have lamented mounting losses. To remain competitive, many operators were forced to sell petrol at rates below their cost. During a survey, some filling stations now sell PMS cheaper than MRS oil. The main partner endorsed by the Dangote Refinery to champion the price reduction to 739 naira per litre. So the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited is facing potential legal exposure running into trillions of naira, with pending lawsuits against the state-owned energy firm rising to about 2.27 trillion naira in the financial year ended 2024. This is according to an analysis of its 2024 annual showing that while the National Oil Company has recognized 474.8 billion naira as contingent liabilities in its financial statements, additional lawsuits estimated at 1.8 trillion naira remain unresolved across various courts with no provisions made for them. The legal claims figure represents a 1.63 trillion naira increase, or about 256% compared with 638.38 billion naira recorded in 2023. The analysis showed that NNPC recognized 474.8 billion naira as contingent liabilities in its 2024 financial statement, a steep rise from 18.14 billion naira provided for in 2023, an increase of 456.66 billion naira, or over 2,500% year on year. The federal government has proposed 142 billion naira for the construction of 6 national bus terminals in 2026 budget, which has a total proposed size of 58.47 trillion naira. The project was captured in the 2026 appropriation bill under the Ministry of Transportation, which was allocated a proposed budget of about 352.1 billion naira for the 2026 fiscal year. The inclusion of the project in the appropriation bill follows an earlier approval by the Federal Executive Council (FEC) in August 2025. And on the foreign scene, Iranian President Mossad Pezeshkian says rioters should not be allowed to disrupt society. In his remark, 3 nights of intensive protests against the country's authorities, protests in Iran had initially been sparked by anger over the rising cost of living that have lasted 2 weeks, becoming a movement against the theocratic system in place following the 1979 revolution. Over now to Zarau Nasiru for the report.
Pezeshkian, in an interview with State TV, stated that protesting is the people's right, but echoed authorities in drawing a line between outcry over Iran's dire economy and rioters the government alleges are backed by the United States and Israel. However, Iranians have consistently maintained that the status quo can no longer be sustained given the current socio-economic status of the nation.
Turkey should stand up for the Iranian people, stand by the Iranian people. We couldn't protest today. We weren't given permission. We couldn't voice our objections, we couldn't protest, and we're here for a peaceful demonstration. But today, the Turkish police didn't allow us.
In our people, in our nation, at least 1,000 people have been martyred, according to the latest news. An intervention is needed. Whether America, President Donald Trump, anywhere in the world, an intervention is needed because our regime is not normal. This time we also have a leader, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. We want him. This time, victory is ours, and we are winning.
Meanwhile, large crowds have gathered across the country in recent days, chanting anti-government slogans, despite an internet blackout that rights groups have warned is being used to obscure a deadly crackdown by security forces. State TV has aired images of buildings, including a mosque on fire, with authorities saying members of the security forces have been killed. Zahra Nasser, reporting for Global TV News.
United States President Donald Trump says Washington is considering very strong options in response to Iran's crackdown on anti-government protests, including the possibility of military action. Speaking to reporters, Trump said the U.S. military is reviewing the situation, adding that a decision will be made after careful consideration. He also claimed Iran's leadership had reached out to negotiate following his warnings, noting that a meeting was being arranged, but cautioned that the United States may have to act before a meeting. Nationwide protests in Iran have entered a third week, heightening tensions between Tehran and Washington. Iran has warned it will retaliate if the United States intervenes after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened action to protest demonstrators amid a deadly security crackdown. Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf accused the United States and Israel of fueling the unrest, warning that Israel and U.S. military assets in the region could become legitimate targets if Iran is attacked. Iranian authorities say security forces have intensified efforts to quell what they described as riots. In sports now, the Confederation of African Football has launched an investigation into alleged misconduct by players and officials during the CAF African Cup of Nations 2025 quarter-final clashes between Cameroon and Morocco, as well as Algeria and Nigeria. According to a statement posted on CAF's official website, the Continental Football Governing Body has collected match reports and video evidence suggesting potentially unacceptable behavior and has referred the matters to the disciplinary board for further review. The probe follows reports of confrontations with referees and disruptions in post-match areas. The Super Eagles have returned to their African Cup of Nations base in Fez to begin preparations for their semi-final clash against Morocco, following the quarter-final victory in Marrakesh over Algeria. In a brief statement from the team's media officer, Promise Afege, he said the squad was back to base in the ancient Moroccan city, adding that they held a recovery session at the Saradini Football Complex in Fez as they began technical preparations. Still on sports now, the Confederation of African Football has unveiled Nigerians' route to 2026 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup following the draw for the African qualifiers held in Rabat. Nigeria's Under-17 women's team, the Flamingos, will enter the qualification campaign at the second round stage, where they are scheduled to face the winner of the preliminary between Niger and Guinea. The first leg of that encounter is set to take place between May 22nd and 24th, with the return leg fixed for May 29 to 31st. Match officials in the Nigerian Premier Football League have confirmed receipt of their unpaid indemnities for officiating the Nigerian top flight ahead of the second stanza of the 2025-26 season. The payments to match referees, referee assessors, and match commissioners stalled after match day 8, but some referees who were involved in match days 9 and 10 have confirmed receipt of their allowances, as outstanding payments are expected to be completed before the start of the second stanza on Wednesday. Officials including referees, match commissioners, and referees assessors were owed allowances for about 11 match days before the league went on its mid-season break in December 2025. Now that's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Up next is Global Morning. Stay tuned.